Welcome back. Look at you go through these lessons. Great job. Throughout human history, across vastly different cultures and eras, certain patterns appear with remarkable consistency. The nurturing mother, the wise elder, the innocent child, the hero on a journey. These figures emerge in stories, dreams, and religious imagery worldwide, despite no direct cultural transmission between many of these societies. These universal patterns are what Carl Jung called archetypes, primordial images and motifs that seem to be part of our shared human inheritance. They're not learned from experience, but appear to be built into the very structure of the human psyche, shaping how we perceive and respond to life's fundamental experiences. Understanding archetypes isn't merely an academic exercise. These patterns actively influence your emotions, relationships, life transitions, and sense of meaning, whether you're aware of them or not. By becoming conscious of these archetypal influences, you gain greater freedom and flexibility in how you respond to their energies. Let's start by clarifying what Jung meant by archetypes. The word comes from Greek, meaning original pattern or primitive model. Jung defined archetypes as universal, archaic patterns and images that derive from the collective unconscious. Innate, unlearned tendencies to experience things in a certain way. It's important to distinguish between the archetypes itself and archetypal images. The archetype as such is an unobservable organizing pattern, like a magnetic field that can't be seen directly, but organizes iron filings into visible patterns. What we actually experience are archetypal images, the special cultural and personal expressions of these deeper patterns. Jung proposed that archetypes have a biological basis, representing the accumulated experiences of our species throughout evolutionary history. Just as our bodies have evolved certain physical structures, our psyches have evolved certain psychological structures, predispositions to perceive and respond to situations in particular ways. For example, we don't need to learn to recognize the mother-child relationship as significant. This recognition is built into our psyches, but how that archetypal pattern is expressed varies enormously across cultures and individuals. Jung described archetypes as inherited possibilities of ideas, not fixed content, but organizing principles that shape how we experience life's universal situations: birth, death, power, love, transformation, and countless others. How do archetypes function in your psyche? They operate somewhat like instincts, predisposing you to perceive and respond to certain situations in particular ways. When an archetypal situation is encountered, it activates a corresponding archetype in the psyche. This activation carries significant emotional charge. Think of times when you've been moved to tears by a story, felt inexplicably drawn to a symbol, or experienced a sense of profound recognition upon encountering a piece of art or music. These powerful emotional responses often signal archetypal activation. Archetypes bridge the instinctual and spiritual dimensions of human experience. On one hand, they're connected to our biological heritage. On the other, they point toward transcendent meaning. This dual nature makes archetypal experiences feel both deeply personal and transpersonal, connected to something beyond our individual lives. When we encounter an archetype directly, the experience often has what Jung called a numinous quality, a sense of the sacred or mysteriously meaningful. This numinosity explains why religious symbols and rituals can invoke such powerful emotional responses, even in people who don't intellectually subscribe to the beliefs associated with them. Let's explore some of the most universal archetypes and how they manifest in human experience. The mother archetype embodies nurturing, protection, and the life-giving aspects of existence. It appears not just in our relationships with actual mothers, but in our connection to nature, homeland, or institutions that provide care and sustenance. The mother archetype has both positive aspects, nurturing, wisdom, fertility, and negative aspects, devouring, overprotection, or abandonment. The father archetype represents authority, structure, and the guiding principles that help navigate the world. It manifests in our relationships with actual fathers, authority figures, cultural laws, and spiritual beliefs. Like the mother, it has both positive expressions, guidance, protection, order, and negative ones, tyranny, absence, or rigidity. The child archetype embodies beginning, innocence, and potential. It appears in experiences of wonder, spontaneity, and new beginnings, but also vulnerability and dependence. The child often emerges in dreams during times of new growth or when we need to reconnect with forgotten aspects of ourselves. The wise elder represents inner wisdom, meaning, and deep knowledge. This archetype often appears at crossroads or in times of confusion, offering guidance that comes from beyond the ego's limited perspective. In dreams or imagination, the wise elder might appear as a teacher, guide, or ancient figure. The lover archetype governs our capacity for connection, passion, and union with others and with aspects of life. It appears not just in romantic relationships, but in deep attachments to people, activities, and ideals. The lover brings vitality and meaning, but can also manifest as obsession or loss of boundaries. The warrior embodies strength, courage, and the capacity to protect boundaries and fight for what matters. This isn't primarily about physical combat, but about the psychological capacity to stand firm, overcome obstacles, and serve principles larger than self-interest. The caregiver encompasses our capacity to nurture others and respond to vulnerability with compassion. While overlapping with the mother archetype, the caregiver extends to all forms of care and service, representing the human capacity for empathy and support. These and many other archetypes exist as potentials within each of us, regardless of our personal history, gender, or culture. They activate in response to life situations, influencing how we perceive and respond to our experiences. Archetypes permeate human culture, providing the underlying patterns for our myths, religions, literature, and arts. The hero's journey, described by Joseph Campbell, a pattern found in stories from virtually every culture, follows archetypal stages of departure, initiation, and return that reflect psychological processes of growth and transformation. Religious figures like the Great Mother, the Divine Child, or the Wise Father represent archetypal energies clothed in specific cultural garments. When stripped of their particular cultural expressions, we find remarkable similar patterns across seemingly different religious traditions. Literature and film continually reinvent these archetypal patterns. The mentor figure guiding the hero appears as Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, Dumbledore in Harry Potter, or Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. All expressions of the wise elder archetype adapted to different fictional worlds. Even modern media and advertising tap into archetypal energies, using images of mother and child to evoke trust, warrior imagery to suggest strength and protection, or trickster elements to create memorable disruption of expectations. What fascinates about archetypes is how they maintain their essential pattern while adapting to different cultural contexts. The core archetypal energy remains recognizable despite vastly different expressions across time and place. How might you work consciously with archetypal energies in your life? Start by developing awareness of when an archetype is activated in you. Notice when you react with unusual emotional intensity. This often signals archetypal activation. Are you experiencing a powerful attraction or repulsion? Feeling a sense of awe or dread? These emotional signals help identify when you've encountered something that resonates at the archetypal level. Pay attention to recurring patterns in your dreams, fantasies, and attractions. Which archetypal figures appear repeatedly? How do you relate to them? What might they be asking of you? While archetypes provide essential energy and pattern to human experience, problems arise when we identify too completely with any single archetype. A person identified with the warrior might be unable to access their lover energy when appropriate. Someone over-identified with the mother archetype might struggle to set boundaries or pursue personal goals. Jung emphasized the importance of developing conscious relationships with archetypal energies rather than being unconsciously possessed by them. This means recognizing their influence, understanding their gifts and limitations, and integrating their energies appropriately. Active imagination, the method Jung developed for dialoguing with unconscious contents, provides one approach to working with archetypal figures. By imagining a conversation with an archetypal figure and allowing it to respond autonomously rather than scripting its response, you can develop a more conscious relationship with these energies. Archetypes connect us to our shared humanity, transcending individual differences to reveal common psychological patterns that underlie the human experience. They remind us that beneath our surface differences of culture, belief, and personality lie shared ways of experiencing life's fundamental situations. In our next video, we'll explore specific archetypal stories, the hero's journey, the encounter with the shadow, and other narrative patterns that shape both individual lives and human culture. We'll see how these stories provide maps for navigating life's transitions and challenges. For now, I invite you to reflect. Which archetypal energies feel most active in your life right now? Which might be underdeveloped or in need of conscious attention? How might recognizing these archetypal patterns help you navigate your current life situation with greater awareness and intention? Remember that archetypes aren't abstract concepts, but living psychological realities that influence every aspect of your experience, from your most personal relationships to your sense of meaning and purpose in the world. Okay, bye for now. See you in the next video.